dying embers of human existence. As the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth, the world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the Earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70mm prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully catalogued and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. In this cinematic crusade, we journey through films on VOD and streaming platforms, deciding their fate, salvation in our vault of legends, or eternal banishment to the flames of the asteroid apocalypse. You can find all of our episodes of our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, or find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I am Nathan Shore, and accompanying me is my movie compadre, who I understand, in order to make it on time for the podcast tonight, started his day in Pomona, made his way through Pasadena scouting film locations, then ventured into Burbank for a tour of the Warner lot to visit the set of Gilmore Girls to ponder whether we as a society can ever again achieve that level of quaint Connecticut charm nationwide. From there, it was over the hills for a power lunch with studio executives at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills, followed by a quick hop in a skip and nervous existential spiral into downtown Los Angeles, where he reportedly performed a one-man show in a damp alleyway, reenacting scenes from Seven for confused passerbys, repeatedly chanting lines like "the city's riding from the inside." And now, somehow, after all of this, has arrived at his ocean-adjacent artist enclave, known to locals simply as the Salt House, for his podcasting appointment, Sam Cole.
That is all true. But Sam Cole got arrested in downtown Los Angeles, and me, Gerard Butler, had to take over. You may recall my performance in Greenland Part 1, Greenland Part 2. Olympus has fallen, Olympus has risen, Paris is gentrified, and my favorite, Amsterdam, is non-binary. I'm Gerard Butler. That's my name. Gerard Butler. G-E-R. No, I'll stop. Yeah, no, it's me. And all that's true. I did walk across Los Angeles, but you forgot to mention I stopped at Subway sandwiches, and it was incredible. But all the people there, it was crazy, and there were gang members shooting at me. It was just like the movie.
All right, eat fresh, Sam. All right. Also joining us as well as a longtime friend of the podcast, and he holds the record, I believe, as not only our most prolific guest on our show, but now going back 3 years ago, our very first guest we ever had on our show. And we've discussed classic films with this man, such as The Exorcist and The Flash, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and 65. Yay! He is the host of the Spoiler Room podcast, and he has a YouTube channel, Special Mark Productions. Is that the umbrella that it's under?
Yeah, that's the umbrella. I do everything.
And with incredible content and movie reviews, long form, short form. Mark Krawczyk, welcome back to the show, Mark.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to get back with you guys, talk movies. Always love talking movies. Passion of mine. And just excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you back. It's been a while, and it's just great to see you again. So, Mark, I'm going to give you a chance for our listeners that may not have listened to those episodes for you to,
Sure.
for them to hear a little bit about what you do. But I do have an important question.
Yes.
For both of you. And here it is. So, it's kind of tied into tonight's discussion. So if you were trapped inside a Los Angeles fictional, it's this LA fictional fast food nightmare scenario, and you must decide which scenario you rather be in. So picture this. You got fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and there's grease in the air, and you have two options. You can either spend the next half hour trapped inside Big Kahuna Burger during the Pulp Fiction holdup with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny waving their guns in your face, Or you can find yourself seated at Whammy Burger across from Defense as he compares the sad, lifeless burger to the photo on the menu board, while psychologically unraveling in real time. So, gentlemen, which hostage situation are you choosing and why?
I might have to choose the Whammy Burger one just because the restaurant seems closer to McDonald's, and that food, like if those fries and that salt is so good that if I could just, I would still be able to enjoy my burger and enjoy my large Diet Coke, because he wasn't going to shoot anyone, but they weren't going to either. So I think I'm just choosing that one because it depends on the food, and Whammy Burger seems to satisfy my junk food taste more.
And for me, I mean, I'm a big cafe person, greasy spoon type of guy. So, I'd probably go with Honey Bunny and
Okay.
the cafe in Pulp Fiction. Good coffee, good pie. I love pie.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'd go with that. I think
Better chance of survival?
it's a little bit better chance of survival. It's a larger area. There's more people in the way. They don't seem to initially really want to hurt anybody so much as just scare folks and that, I'd make sure I take my money out of my wallet before I give them my wallet. So if they pulled the guns, I'd immediately go in my wallet and take out, the cash.
Smart.
But other
Very
than
smart.
that, I'd go with that. I would go with that versus the Whammy Burger, only because they don't actually shoot at all. In Whammy Burger, his gun goes off. So
That's true.
I'd have to. It
That's true.
edges towards.
Sam,
it
you're
does,
thinking with the stomach here. I said
right.
so.
It edges towards that, and I could still get pie or after my dinner after they leave. So
All right.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
It all-
hostage situation that ends in pie is the better
It all
scenario.
comes down to the pie, man. It all comes down to the pie.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for playing along in my ridiculous little game here. All right, Mark. So please tell our audience a little bit about yourself for a minute or two and what you do. You have a festival that you're associated with. You do film reviews. You dabble in many things.
I always say I can't pick a lane, but no, I've been on YouTube. This is our 20th year. We're celebrating 20 years on YouTube. Started out
that
doing.
pretty much means you started YouTube.
I was on the ground floor basically when it was just kids with flip phones recording themselves at malls, which both those things no longer exist. So it tells you how old I am. But I started it there, and I didn't really dump a lot of content out until my kids got older, and then I really focused on movie reviews, and then found a passion for covering independent films, and that's really been my focus over the last, I would say, 13, 14 years now, is focusing on reviewing mostly indie stuff. I do wide release stuff too, but they only get about a minute because that's all the Hollywood film usually needs. But yeah, so I started doing that. Then I also started getting into podcasting about 14 years ago. So I've been doing this a while, and met lots of wonderful filmmakers and folks like yourself, who are creatives. And yeah, and I do written reviews occasionally too. I've been involved in a number of different websites, and yeah, I just can't pick one lane. No, I like to dabble in a little bit of everything. I do vinyl record reviews. I love collecting vinyl. Became a vinyl head about 8 years ago, and my collection has just exploded. And I love physical media too. So yeah,
That's awesome. I love how you do a lot of up to the minute reviews. Whenever there's a new release, I'll always see like your Facebook or something where you're like reviewing it the day that it comes out, and that's pretty cool. Like I like that.
I try to. Occasionally they get a little delayed depending on real life stuff, because I do video game streaming too the last few years on Twitch. So yeah, I dabble in everything. My wife doesn't mind this hobby, as referred to it, because she knows where I am. I'm in the basement. So, she, yeah.
Okay. Well, so before we continue, Mark, is there any one or two places where people can find your content, just so right at the top of the show they can look you up?
Oh, yeah. Specialmarkproductions.com for all your Movie Man needs. If you go there, well, the website itself isn't completely updated. A lot. The links to my other stuff there is. So you get links right on the front page to the Spotify, the TikTok, the Instagram, the YouTube, all the links are right there on the web page that if you go right to the homepage, you can go to my other stuff and find it from there. So kind of like a hub for things.
Okay, great. All right, so let's carry on with the rundown of the show we're going to do. So we're going to be talking about the 1993 film Falling Down. This is part of our Robert Duvall retrospective, our third film in this series. And we took a little break last week, or 2 weeks ago. You might get a kick out of this, Mark. We reviewed Moonraker, our first James Bond film. We'll get to that a little bit later on. I have a question for you on that. But so we're going to discuss this. We are going to also do a recommendation shelf segment later on. And before we get to our discussion of this, we don't get a ton of reviews on our show, and maybe I shouldn't be admitting that, but there is one that popped up on Apple Podcasts. So when all of a sudden, like, I get an alert that there's somebody left a review, like, I did a lap around the house because I was like, wow, some person did this, and that is special for me. So I want to read it, and maybe this will entice other people to leave a review. So this is from Lemon Ace. I hope this is a real person, but this is from April 29th, and they said some really nice things. So I'm going to read this. Lemon Ace, if you're out there.
Oh, wow. This is exciting.
I know. Yes. Yeah. First one in like 2 years.
Does that mean that a real person likes us?
I hope so. And they gave us 5 stars, and they said, this is a fantastic podcast. It's a great way to explore movies you might not hear about otherwise. It also brings insightful commentary to movies that you may, in quote, think you know well. But the team's solid research and analysis frequently open a new dimension of perspective and understanding. I wonder if they listen to our podcast. I don't know. It's not pretentious, just thoughtful, honest, and good-humored. Highly recommend.
Wow.
So, yes. I know. Glowing endorsement.
That's awesome.
That's very genuine.
That is.
Yes. It made my week. So, okay, we got that out of the way. So if you want to leave another 5-star review, we'll read it. That shows you how desperate we are for your reviews. All right, closing that tab.
Read the one star review. Read all the reviews. Yeah.
Hey, I will read a 1-star review because that means you took the time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I always say don't read the comments, but I end up reading comments on YouTube, and let me tell you, that's an experience. So,
I can never not read comments. My favorite comment when I posted a short film on YouTube was like, "This movie sucks, and you suck too." I was like,
"Well, that was constructive."
Put
that on the poster. Put that on the poster.
Yeah, that's a tagline right there. What are you talking about? No, my favorite comment for what I got was, "I really enjoy this review, but your voice made my fist want to punch you in the face." And I'm like, thank you for watching my video. Yeah.
Oh, that would get to me because I'm already very self-conscious about my voice. So I would be like, oh, I'm just going to stop talking for now.
I'm at that age. I know exactly how I am. So,
All right, let's talk about Falling Down. And let me just, I have a little snippet of the trailer here. I hope I do, because I see that I have last week's trailer for Moonraker, and that is not what I want to play. Here it is. I got it.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Turn around, look at that. You see what I mean? It's plump, it's juicy, it's 3 inches thick. Now, can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture?
Having a bad day. Going nowhere fast. The economy making you tense? Afraid to walk the streets? Life in the 90s got you down? What are you gonna do about it?
Hey! What are
you think you're going? Going home.
I am just trying to get home to my little girl's birthday. And if everybody will stay out of my way, then nobody will get hurt.
You know, the first part of that, I was worried that I captured the wrong clip when he said it's plump, it's juicy, it's 3 inches thick. And I was like, what? Wait, is this the right thing here?
I forgot on that trailer that they used Beetlejuice music for the opening, because I remember that trailer because it played quite often, and that's Daddy Elfman's Beetlejuice playing in there, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting choice for the type of film you're promoting.
That was so weird because I hadn't listened to that trailer before. I just heard that music too, and it sounded like he with the Beetlejuice music that he was about to like break out into song. You know, like, I'm not economically viable.
you just needed him to go, it's showtime. You know?
I'll read a quick little plot synopsis here and we'll get into this. A middle-aged man dealing with both unemployment and divorce, William Foster, is having a bad day. When his car breaks down on a Los Angeles highway, he leaves his vehicle and begins a trek across the city to attend his daughter's birthday party. As he makes his way through the urban landscape, William's frustration and bitterness become more evident, resulting in violent encounters with various people, including a vengeful gang and a dutiful veteran cop. All right. So, Sam, I didn't even ask you beforehand. Do you want to bring up any movie facts, or are we? Okay, cool. Yay.
Absolutely. So this is a Joel Schumacher film, and this came out in February 26, 1993, just over 2 years before Batman Forever. And regarding Joel Schumacher, with that and like Lost Boys, this is actually one of his more restrained movies visually, because he's very like kind of a flashy director. But I will say that I did like, and oh man, I apologize, I'm going to botch this guy's name, but I did like the cinematography. Andrezi Bart Kowiak. Apologies there.
Close enough.
And also, I really like James Newton Howard's score in this movie. The music, when things go dark, the menacing, there's this kind of, it makes the experience a little bit more epic. This is distributed by Warner Brothers, and it did better than I thought it. So it had a $25 million budget. It actually made $96 million. I'm guessing that's worldwide, because
it was 40 million domestic, 96 total for domestic.
Yeah. So it certainly wasn't a big splash, but I never knew anything about the box office of this movie. I was just glad to see that it wasn't like a dud. So that was decent. Starring Michael Douglas, Robert Duvall, two really good performances. The whole movie is set in Los Angeles. And it's really interesting to me because this is early 90s Los Angeles. And I live here. So like just looking at like the geography of downtown, like there's whole skyscrapers that don't exist yet. Santa Monica Pier looks so empty to what it looks like. Just because there's 30 years plus of time gap between that. But yeah, that's just like basic production stuff. It actually was shooting in various locations in Linwood, California, when the 1992 Los Angeles riots began. So controversial timing there. But yeah, LA movie, and any other, that's just kind of a basic overview. Any other thoughts, like Nathan? I didn't do like a deep dive.
I'm just curious. Wasn't it the Manhattan Beach or Venice Pier, or which one down there? Not Santa Monica, wasn't it?
Oh my God, you're right. It was the Venice Pier, and that actually makes sense because I actually walk there all the time, and no wonder it looked like that, because it actually still does look like that. So it's not that different. So yeah, I was thinking for some reason of Santa Monica with the Ferris wheel and all that stuff, but yeah, Venice Pier is still the fishing pier. There's nothing in the center of it anymore, but they may have put that there for the movie, so Robert Duvall could like eat popcorn and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, no, Venice Pier. She lives in Venice. Whoops. Duh.
It's okay. No, I don't really have much else. I know you mentioned that was happening during the LA riots. I think that was a big story, behind the scenes story during the filming of this. I'm not
Yeah, and
sure.
there were like
Yeah.
kind of mixed to positive review. Like Roger Ebert gave it a really interesting review, and one thing the Rotten Tomatoes, the site's consensus states, Falling Down's popcorn friendly take on its complex themes proves disquieting and ultimately fitting for a bleakly entertaining picture of one man's angry break with reality. And I'll stop there because anything else I say goes kind of right into my review of it. So
Yeah,
just sticking to like facts at the moment. Yeah.
I can't. Okay, I'll be honest. What Rotten Tomatoes does, just the accumulated like algorithm, all these reviews, like it just distills it down to like a byline that I just find so ugh.
I have my reserved opinions on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's probably why I'll never be a Rotten Tomato critic, even though I've submitted 3 times. They must have watched my videos and go, yeah, no, we're not going to take that guy, because I have some.
It's like sort of off the mark. It's sort of like Rotten Tomatoes if they reviewed like Lord of the Rings or Fellowship of the Ring, it would be like interesting take on medieval time periods involving magic that doesn't necessarily exist. Lord of the Rings.
Well, the tough part with Rotten Tomatoes and classic films is just that, classic films. I mean, this is a 30-year-old film, a little over 30 years old, and you have a lot of younger reviewers on there who won't watch anything past 2000. So the reviews you do get for older films on Rotten Tomatoes, it's a crapshoot, and it's going to be, less people weighing in on it, and let's not forget, this is 93. So there were the riots 92, and let's not forget Colors. Another Duv-All film in LA.
Colors was close to being on this retrospective series. I actually liked Colors a lot.
That's another odd film. That was that was 5 years before this one, but Duv-All was in that one as well. So LA and Duv-All, who knows?
Mm-hmm. It's so funny you just say, I know that exact song when it opens, like Colors.
I remember the trailer for that, I think, more than the movie. It was on so many, I think, VHS. Like the beginning of so many. I don't know what studio did Colors, but I just remember I had whatever I was renting or watching. It kept coming up all the time. The Colors trailer before whatever I was trying to watch.
Well, it was directed by Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Colors was directed by Dennis Hopper and starred Sean Penn and Robert Duvall in it. And so to see Duv-All in another LA film, in this film as a cop again, it's like, dude, and that was Orion Pictures.
That was like 15 years between these movies. It looks like.
Yeah, he did though. He got there's only like 5 years between them, but he looks like he aged 15 because, that just what happened back then. And that was Orion Pictures. May it rest in peace.
Okay.
So. But Colors, so it's just fun watching him in another LA film, especially an LA film that takes place mostly in the inner city of LA, though part of it then heads towards the suburbs. And well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it was interesting revisiting it. I've got it on VHS somewhere. I ended up watching it on Amazon, but I know I have it on VHS as well. In my huge collection. I just haven't sorted it in ages, but
definitely, rest in peace to Orion Pictures. It brought us the magic of Prancer, the most boring, like flying deer movie. It's like the friggin' deer gets stuck in the barn and you watch it for 2 hours. It's like, somebody get me a scotch over here. I'm bored,
Wow.
But Orion also brought us RoboCop. So come on.
True. That's true. That's true. I was being unfair there. I apologize, Orion. May it rest in peace. Yeah.
May it rest in peace.
So Mark, why don't you give us a quick take on, and then we'll get into like the plot machinations of this film. What is your, first of all, when did you see this initially, and what is your take on this?
Well, it was 93. The thing is, it comes out a year after Basic Instinct. Mm-hmm. So Michael Douglas is kind of the hot item right now because Basic Instinct just, thanks to Sharon Stone and not only just that scene, but that movie in general seemed to capture this weird, almost De Palma-esque type of era of film where people are suddenly discovering these type of grittier films. And so, Michael Douglas was the thing. I'm a big fan of his. And so I'm like, oh, okay, he's in this. And it's really weird how they promote this film. It's an unusual film, and watching it now, because I've watched it a number of times, but watching it as an older guy closer to his age, there's aspects of his character now I at least understand. I don't justify, but I understand more than I did when I was 18 and watching this. I liked it when I was 18 because it had Duvall, it had Douglas. It's an interesting story. But I at that age I didn't catch a lot more of the nuance and a lot more of what it was trying to say. And now revisiting it, watching it again, I'm like, I think this is an underappreciated film because it's not so much in its subject matter itself, but its characters and everything. And I forgot that it was Joel Schumacher till his name showed up. And I've enjoyed a lot of Joel Schumacher's stuff that don't have Batman in the title. So, I love, most of the films he's had, and so when you get him doing this one, it's interesting because the characters you have here feel very real, and he takes you on this journey to where he throws these elements of these characters at you to make you start to feel one way, like with the wife of, which I'm sure we'll get into, the wife of Defense. You feel one way about her, but then there's a couple other scenes where you're starting to feel a different way about her because you haven't really gotten to know Defense yet. So you're just like, and he does that with a number of these other characters to where you have the one expectation, but then he adds this other scene that totally makes you recontextualize their character. And you're just like, I don't know how to feel about this person. It's even Defense, even our main character Defense.
Yes.
On one hand, there's elements that I don't like. On the other hand, some of the things he does feels a little he makes a point. The way he goes about making his points is completely wrong. But the problem is the points he is bringing up, the subjects, he's not wrong there. He's just going about this at a very wrong way to go about to present his opinion. But that doesn't make what he's saying any less true. So you're really conflicted with his character throughout this entire film. And I liked that. I like that because, you really, the only character you know how to feel about is Duvall's character, Pendergast. Him and his partner are about the only two that you could like, okay, good guys. We got two people we could connect to.
And I don't want to spoil my take yet, but I actually think that there are layers that we peel back with Duv-All that we underestimate him, that I think we see him as a certain type, but then we realize there's something that we learn later on, especially with his relationship with his wife and the tragedy that he's had, and how there is an arc to him. And I think that, I'm going to get to my thing later. I don't want to
just long story short is it's a far more complex film than I think people or the way they promote it really is. And when you sit down and watch it and pay attention of what is exactly going on, there is so much to unpack in this film. And to appreciate what Joel Schumacher is juggling here. And the fact that you think, oh, it's going to be one-sided. He's traveling through the inner city. Suddenly he's in rich town, basically, the richer part of town. They're not immune either from Defense. And so it's really interesting how there's this balance that ends up coming to the surface as this film goes along. And you're not supposed to like Defense. You're not. But then he starts making some sense and you're like, no, stop that.
And that's making sense.
Yeah. And that's just what I love about this film. I think this film is a far more complex film than what, say, the synopsis and that goes. And there's a lot going on in here with every character. And I appreciated that quite a bit. And I appreciate this film even more now than when I watched it when I was younger, because watching it now, I'm just like, yeah, this movie, man, the way he directs this and this script that they have is very fascinating. and very relevant today still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Sam, pass it over to you. Some initial thoughts. And when did you first see this?
So I first saw this on VHS in May of 1995. I was 14 years old, and I vividly remember it because my parents were not home. The house was empty, and there was like scaffolding all over the roof because they were redoing the shingles. So like it was an afternoon, like summer was about to come. It was one of those like formative, like early teenage, awesome summers. So this was a good time period.
And you perfectly timed it when your parents weren't there. This was like you snuck it in, right?
Oh, my dad would have watched it with me if I was there. Like,
okay, fine.
He showed me like Jaws and RoboCop when I was like 5, so I was corrupted.
Yeah, this is not a hard R movie, so no.
Yeah. So this review is interesting for me because I like this movie, but the memory of the experience that I had with it back then is stronger than how I feel about the movie now. I still like the film. I think it's interesting for some reason this time, and maybe it's just because I'm a lot more like dialed into filmmaking. I agree. I think Michael Douglas's performance is excellent. I love Robert Duvall. I think they're the two like strongest character actors in the movie. For me, it's good, but when I saw this when I was 14, I'd never seen anything like this movie before, and I watched it like a million times that summer, and I just thought it was incredible, and I like showed it to all my friends. Now I enjoy it. I'm just more aware of the construct of it, and I like some scenes more than other scenes. Some scenes, there's a kind of artifice to it for me, like in the opening scene when he's in the car and every single annoying person is all condensed around him, like kids on a bus, the Garfield thing on the window. It's like, and everywhere he goes, every single situation is designed to have like obnoxious people like get in his face. Like, you can't walk this way, man. Hey, give me some food. Hey, this is my turf. You got to pay a toll, bro. Like, it's very, I'm aware of the construct of the screenplay. And so some moments land for me more than others, but when it comes to that kind of deeper message, it's there. This movie for me at my age is a little bit more surface level than how I remembered it. Because when I saw it at 14, I was like, this is the deepest, most like, he's like firing a rocket launcher and the kid thinks he's making a movie and this is so awesome. And there's explosions, but there's meaning behind the explosions. And now I was like, yeah, that's a pretty interesting scene. But I must say, I do love the golf course scene and the moment where I really like Michael Douglas defense when I'm not supposed to, because he's doing horrible things. But when the guy says on the golf course, he's like 4, and Michael Douglas takes out his gun and he's like 5. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why am I cheering him on here? But the movie purposefully does that. I will say, the ending on the Venice Pier held up really surprisingly strongly to me, to the fact where that climax for me basically almost made the movie. That was way more emotional than when I saw it. When I was 14, I was like, oh, this is cool. And there's a shootout. But this time it was emotionally brutal to me when he takes out the water gun and he falls off into the water. And like, I love that, that Robert Duvall is still going to be a cop. And I love that moment when he like stands up to his wife on the phone and he's like, Amanda, shut up. I was like, oh, damn, yo, Prendergast. So the movie, what it does in a manipulative but good way is it makes you root for things where you're like, why am I feel weird that I'm enjoying this moment, but that's the whole point. So for me, this is a very good 3-star kind of a movie that I like and I admire. I'm just aware of directorial construction where there are scenes that make Los Angeles look like this, jungle of horror. And it's kind of like it, to me, some scenes land more than others. and some scenes don't land. Well, the one I really do like is when he's walking through a tunnel and the guy like wants his briefcase, but he's like, "Hey, I haven't eaten in 3 days. Oh, I mean, except for this," because he's like,
yeah, he's got a sandwich in his hand.
I was a nom, man. I was a nom. And he's like, "What were you, a drummer boy? You were 10, like you must have been 10 years old." He's like, "No, I meant the golf." Like this guy is just so full of it. And like Michael Douglas is just like fact checking him. Those scenes I love. Some scenes just feel kind of more manipulative. So solidly enjoyed it, a little bit surface level. And there are visual moments that are a little bit on the nose and a kind of like, I get it, subtext. Like there's a scene at the very beginning in the Korean store where he like takes a bat, knocks over stuff, and it shows these close up of American flags like smashing on the floor surrounded by glass. And I was like, whoa, I get it. The American dream is like, so the movie does some of those things that irritate me. So ultimately I enjoyed it, but that's my review. This is an interesting film. I don't think it's a great film, but what's fascinating to me is the experience I had now versus when I saw it in 95. Totally. Back then I thought it was like a masterpiece as a 14-year-old. And now I'm like, oh, this is an interesting film, but it is not the same experience for me at all.
Okay.
That would be my
that's interesting. So you really felt like a lot of the manipulation in
I did.
For the audience.
I didn't mind it. I was just aware of scenes being geared to push him a certain way. Like when he's trying to cross the road and the guy's like, not this way, you're not going, buddy. He's like, I'm here. I'm a day player. I'm SAG-AFTRA and I'm going to yell at you, you jerk. Like.
No, the thing is, I caught it more this time than last time. All valid points for sure. And the smashing of the glass, in the America and his attitude and everything. For me, I think I never took this as being reality. I took this as being a hyper reality. Like you're right. I mean, it's like every extreme situation we've ever been in hits defense throughout his course of his journey, which I can totally see is kind of takes some folks out or whatnot, or think it's a little bit, too on the nose. But I think also that's part of the point with it, is presenting these daily situations some people run into, individual, not all at once, but and having him do something that some people wish they would be able to do, like, really yell at a convenience store guy for the extraordinary prices, the 85 cents for a Coke, which I'm like, I'll pay 85 cents for a Coke Classic. Are you kidding me?
It's like $3 to like $4 now. And I think also like there's I think I remember this right. I didn't look it up tonight, but there's a short story by a famous author called The Swimming Pool, where a guy just swims through people's pools to get home. And the screenplay was loosely based on this, where he's just like cutting across a cross section of LA. So I like that. I like the journey, like quest aspect of it, where he's like, I'm getting home no matter what. And that's the fun part where you're like, oh man, what's going to happen to this guy next? Like, we're going to a golf course now. This is going to get crazy,
Well, I'll throw in my 2 cents. So I think I might be leaning a little bit toward Mark on this, but maybe in the middle. But when people talk about this film, I think it is often reduced to the byline, like the guy finally snaps. And on the surface, that is the hook of this. But I think that this is, we got a man trapped in this pressure cooker of a situation in Los Angeles traffic. He abandons his car. So that's kind of like the premise. But, revisiting this film now, I think what surprised me most is how much of more of a layered and tragic story it is. So this movie I haven't seen in good 25 years. And I, like you, Sam, I saw this many times. I saw this in the theater. I remember it. Me and my best friend saw this when it came out that February. Actually, it was the second run theater. Remember Apple Valley Cinemas around here?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I saw it, and it wasn't a big screen, but I remember we saw it there, and I got this on VHS shortly after that. And this was one of the tapes that I wanted to own. So I had this, and I watched it a lot in the 90s. This is one of my few VHS tapes. I didn't have a big collection in the 90s, but I think now, again, also this is a Duv-All retrospective. So I thought about this. Like, did we pick the right movie for this? This is such a Douglas film. He gets all of the great scenes and the great lines in this. But I also realized that, and he's the one that gets to externalize his rage and decides, the world owes him something. But this movie is really a dual performance when I really thought about it. And what Duvall is doing is very subtle. But if he wasn't doing what he's doing, I think this movie would have been, if it was just Michael Douglas, just raging through Los Angeles, it could have been that movie. In fact, there are plenty of movies. We've got like Charles Bronson movies out there, vigilante films out there, and this could have been that. But with Duvall, who is the opposite side of the coin of everything that Michael Douglas is, Michael Douglas, the defense character, is externalizing all of his rage and decides that the world owes him something. But Duvall, he is absorbing disappointment and punishment. And both these characters, though, are struggling with living in a society that has discarded them, which I think is interesting part of this movie that I never noticed growing up with this movie, that they are two characters that are on a parallel course in this movie. And Douglas used to work for defense.
He had a defense contract with the company that he worked for did a defense contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's laid off. The communist regime's overthrown. They're done. And Duvall, he's a dinosaur, but he's also comes off as this weak, emasculated character from his wife, and he doesn't have any respect in his department as well. So he's just kind of like fizzling out in his career. But so they're both kind of both sides of this. And where Duvall is doing, which I think is fascinating, is that he is not lashing out with vengeance. He just absorbs the punishment and just gives back compassion constantly and just takes it until there's a point in the movie where I think there's a great scene that something does change in him a little bit, where he realizes that this Douglas character is not some mythic hero, folk hero, which I think is what he is perceived to be, maybe a little bit by maybe like the news or like the community to some degree. But when he visits Douglas's mom, and I love that scene a lot. And then this is where Robert Duvall's kind of has this, I think, a full arc to this, where he now becomes somebody that realizes that Michael Douglas has to be stopped. And he does make a very difficult decision at the end of this. And I love the ending of this movie. We'll get to that in a little bit. But anyways, both these characters on this parallel path. And this movie would just be, I think, some really a very forgettable like B-movie, vigilante movie, if it wasn't for what Robert Duvall is doing, who brings a lot to this. And it's not something I even noticed the first 5 times I watched this, probably growing up. I think the visuals in this film are great. I think, who did I say that? I can't even say the DP's name, but like, I love how this looks. Everything, there's this harsh sunlight in this, the suffocating heat, everyone's sweaty, and there's no place to hide in this movie. I love that. It's all done in almost like in real time in daylight. There's everything's exposed and overcooked, and there's very few shadows. I just love the way that this is shot. So I just think that it's unique in that matter. So I don't know. Those are my initial thoughts. There's so many little plot mechanics I want to get to, but those are my initial ideas on this.
I really loved Nathan, Robert Duvall's arc. Like, I did not notice that. I mean, I like saw it on a surface level when I was 14, but him like just going through it, and then when he like tells off the police captain, or like at the very end when the chief is with the reporters like, and this is our best man. He's like, "Fuck you, Captain. Fuck you very much." I was like, "Yeah."
Well, that comes all the way around. And what I loved is I caught this time that I've never caught when I watched it before, but watching it on Amazon with headphones on it, and I caught it more, is his captain actually says thank you. Because up until that point, his captain has a scene earlier where he says he's never trusted Pendergast because Pendergast hasn't sworn, not a shit, not a fuck. So we get the impression Pendergast has always been the nice guy of the department. He's been always
he's been the punching
kind
bag.
of almost, mousy like, he had something that happened to him where he got injured and he rode the desk, but he's riding the desk because of his wife, but everybody thinks he just doesn't have the gusto anymore. And then when the captain tells him, I don't trust you, you never swear, and then to have him come full circle in front of reporters and just go, fuck you, captain, yeah, fuck you, and then you hear the captain, and I didn't hear it before, goes, thank you, and I'm just like, oh, suddenly it's like the captain, if you look at his expression too, he almost has this kind of like, yeah, that's the guy I was hoping you would be, sort of, and then you have that touching scene at the end too, where he talks to the wife and he says, don't tell the little girl today, let her have her birthday. I mean, but more importantly, it's the way Duvall plays his character. As there's the scene when he decides to go on the beat. He's been writing a desk for a couple years since whatever event happened. And you watch his demeanor and energy suddenly change in his character when he finally decides to go out on the street to track defense down himself. There's a switch in his character, and suddenly you see him with more energy. He's got, he's cheering defense. He's figured this out. This is stuff that you get that he's been keeping repressed because he's been behind the desk for his wife, and to see that in his character comes through because of Duvall's performance. And at that same time, it goes along with what you said, Nathan. I'm sorry, I'll shut up in a minute, but
Go ahead.
It goes along with what you were saying, Nathan. Up until that point in the movie, we're not sure how we're supposed to feel about defense. Because defense up until this point has been kind of this gray character to where most of the stuff he's been doing has been to bad people. He's not really looking to hurt people while he's clumsily going about trying to make his point. At the same time, you're like, okay, it's not until Pendergast decides, hey, I'm going to go and be a beat cop, detective again. I'm going to actually do detective work. And he seems very excited. At the same moment is when he goes meets Defense's mom. And that's, he first tracks down, the license plate and they figure it out. But then he meets his mom. And when we find out from his mom how Defense now becomes a villain, a complete villain.
Yes.
Up until that point.
That is the turning point. It is. Hey, by the way, I did capture just a little bit of this is the one clip I did capture this scene right here. It's only like a minute long. I'm going to play here, but you can carry on with your point.
What's he been doing lately?
Same as ever. He's building important things to protect us from the communists. He works at NOTEC.
The defense plant. Defense. Why don't you call NOTEC, see if you can't get him on the horn?
Okay.
So, now what's going on with your son?
How do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean.
Sometimes he sits through an entire meal without saying a word. He just keeps shoveling food into his mouth like he's some kind of a machine. I get so nervous. I can't swallow. I'll sit there with the same piece of food in my mouth. I just have to spit it out on the plate, and when I do, he looks at me like he would like to kill me. Don't tell him that I said that.
No, I promise I won't.
I try not to be a burden. I'm not just talking financial.
Now, how could you be a burden to anyone?
Yeah, he's so good in this because he's also offering the mom so much compassion in this as well. That scene goes on for like 5 minutes with the interaction with the mom. It is brilliant.
That's why makes with the two, like Michael Douglas and Robert Duvall both being sort of marginalized in different ways. That's what makes their showdown on the pier even more poignant, because it's the two characters coming together, and Michael Douglas is 100% the villain. But at the very end, he takes out the water gun And so it's like a death wish, but he has this. It's certainly not a redemption arc for Michael Douglas, but he has this poignant moment where he's like, "I'm the bad guy. How did that happen?" But he's realizing I'm the bad guy, and so he's like, I don't want to see her grow up behind bars." And then he's like, "All right, I'm going out with a bang." And then he's like, "I would have got you," and it just falls. And I was just like, "Oh." That
moment
Jesus.
It gives me chills, because that's when Michael Douglas, his character, realizes it's that moment of self-awareness. Because there are very few. There's one other moment, I think, when there's a family that is like at one of those like rich people's houses where they're like working at the pool.
Yeah.
Where I think he realizes for a moment that it is a moment of self-awareness where he's grabbing the little girl a little too tight or something like that, and he seems genuinely concerned of his actions for a moment. But he also realizes that this is just a working guy as well, but the other thing is that that moment where he realizes I'm the bad guy, I get chills at that moment, because he realizes at that very moment, I think, that what he has become, and he consciously chooses death at that moment. He really does. He realizes that there is no getting out.
That's powerful. And I think Michael Douglas said in an interview that this was his favorite character to play. And I can understand why, as an actor, the things that he got to do with that was just amazing. By the way, random shout out to his mother, Aunt Meg from Twister 96.
Yes. Well, I mean, well, the thing is, this was what's funny is when you see this came out while Douglas was the hot item in Hollywood. Like I said, Basic Instinct, there was Disclosure, there was, I mean, he was the guy for a while then in that, early to mid 90s. He was the guy, that kind of the it guy. And so to see him play a character like this, who's so dark. I mean, darker than what you might have seen in Wall Street. I mean, darker than. I mean, this is a side of Douglas that you don't normally see him cast in, like, ever. I mean, even when he's playing a bad guy, he's not. He's like a white collar bad guy, but in this one, he's a white collar, but he's dark in this, and you don't see him in many roles in this.
Well,
and
it's because he's morally ambiguous. That's what's scary about it. Like Gordon Gekko, you know him, but this is a loose cannon. You don't know what he's going to do. He got a person that is unpredictable and could snap is some of the scarier people. That's what's so relatable about this, because I feel this is what these people I feel like do exist. That's the other thing, or they're close to it, and that's what is disturbing about his character, is that it's not far off the mark.
That's why it's like purposefully uncomfortable when he does things, when he gets like mad stuck in traffic, and you're like, oh man, I've been stuck in traffic. I would never do that. But then you feel a little bit of sympathy, but then he does things you're like, well, you can't agree with that. And so you're taking on this ambiguous journey. And I'll say really randomly, the one scene that disturbed me more now when I was 14 is that the like Nazi bad guy at that. That is just like, oh my God. I just thought, honestly, when I was 14, I thought that was kind of like a slow, like midpoint scene where I was like, this is all right. This time I was really uncomfortable watching that scene. That guy just made me really nervous.
Frederick Forrest, who we lost a couple of years ago, he was in Apocalypse Now. I love this role for him. He talks about it, how much fun he had performing this. And I have Falling Down on Blu-ray, and he is on the commentary, and he just talks about during that scene how him and Michael Douglas were just working it and going back and forth, and he was having time of his life in the scene with Douglas.
Well, what I love about that scene is that shows you where Defense's frame of mind is, because he's been going about and he thinks he's kind of been justified or just reasonable about these things. And he's been doing these things, but then he meets someone who he thinks is rather vile. I mean, he doesn't care for this guy from the start, but then when he starts showing the Nazi stuff, he's like, what do you do? Because the guy thinks he's found a kindred spirit. And, And even though he's done some horrible things in the movie at this point, or some very gray area thing, just some things that he's like, I'm not you, and to see the neo-Nazi guy suddenly turn, realizing he doesn't have a kindred spirit. Yeah, that whole sequence is just, it shows you how Defense sees his character versus how others are seeing his character, and how he's kind of blind to it,
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. Like at 14, I obviously I knew like what the Nazis were, and I knew that the guy was a bad guy. But this time, when he used more like racial slurs and some things that he said that I didn't know what they meant back then, just because I hadn't heard it. Now, when he said it, the depth of that character's evil was more disturbing, and so that scene landed a lot more for me because of exactly what you just said, of Michael Douglas being like, well, this guy's awful. Like, I'm not this guy. Like, I'm not a bad guy. This guy's a fucking whack job. You know what I mean? So that was a good character moment there.
What's, I think, really important about that scene also, it ends with Defense killing him, really murdering him. And this is the first real like point of no return, I think, for him. And I think Douglas's character knows this also. He's a murderer now. And I think also my gut is that the Defense character knows that he makes a decision at this point also that he's probably going to kill his wife and kid after this, because he's gone. He knows that there is no out after this. And he changes his clothes, and that phone call with his wife from that store, that surplus store, is really disturbing as well. His cadence in his voice, and he said he's coming for her at that point. It's no longer like, I want to see my kid. It feels different. And at that point, I really, upon watching this, is like, we're not friends with him anymore. We're not rooting for him anymore. Even though he just murdered a bad person, he is now at a point now where his wife and child are in true danger. And so,
talking it through with you guys on it right now, something just clicked with me as well. It's the classic white hat, black hat situation with his character, to where up until he kills the guy, he's still in his white shirt. He's got a black tie, but he's in his white shirt, and he's done some really bad things, but they were still things that you could maybe come back from. Not well. You would need, I'm not forgiving him, but they're just things to where you could see his character, maybe you could make up for it. And he could be rehabbed, and you could kind of understand, and you don't necessarily need to forgive, but understand and accept that he did those things. But when he kills the guy, not only does he kill him and go over past that point, but he dresses all in black. He's more put together now, as if he's completely turned now to be the villain. And that's when we see his mom too. In between those scenes, we get to meet his mom, and so that really is the turning point for his character, to where he comes from being the gray area, who's being a spoken voice for those inner voices we have, to just being the bad guy.
That really is like a turning point, and I didn't realize that until you mentioned that. This movie has a lot of good plant and payoffs, and this is a totally random comment, but Nathan, for some reason, I was thinking of you in this scene, because I pictured you watching this exact moment, smiling. It was just a cool Robert Duvall moment where he's up on the hill and he sees Michael Douglas's car still there, and it's like later in the building, and he's like, "Mr. Lee, defense," and Mr. Lee looks at him like, what the fuck is this guy? What is he talking about? I love that scene. And I just, for some reason, Nathan, I pictured you watching that and like laughing at that. That was a good Robert Duvall funny character moment. Like, I love that scene.
Very cool. What else here? I mean, we've even talked about the ending here. Any other?
I think, I like to bring up his wife, because in the beginning, it's the way they write him, the way the actress portrays her as well.
Defense's wife?
Huh? Defense's wife, yeah.
Yep.
Defense's wife. Well, you've got both wives, but in particular, Defense's wife.
Beth,
until we get the scene, which is the turning point in the film and starts pretty much the third act where he kills the neo-Nazi. Up until that point, we think, okay, he's been pushed to the limit because of these outside factors, and that's why he's acting out like this, more so than internal. And we cut back to his wife a few times, who has called the cops saying he's going to come and hurt me. And the way they even play it is kind of like she's overreacting. She's being the hysterical, pardon my friend, but she's being the hysterical woman, so to speak. Everybody treats her kind of like that, especially after she calls the second time. She meets that female cop who says, hey, if you want more coverage, how about you vote for more cops on the next, ballot or what? But she's not being taken seriously, and she acts it, and it's even directed in a way to where the audience is intended maybe not to take her quite as, maybe she is blowing, maybe they divorced because she she overreacted in thinking he was going to be this way. But then he kills the neo-Nazi, and we see how he is, and we're like, no, she's not reacting, but she's cried wolf so many times now, she can't get the protection. And suddenly her character has changed in a subtle way, and she's a supporting character. We don't get a lot of scenes, but there's that setup. And then, Duv-All, Pendergast's wife, same thing. He stands up to her, and she has suddenly, we've got her in a complete change to where we're like, oh, she can become, she doesn't have to be as erratic. She just needs someone to kind of reality check her. So yeah, they juggle a lot of different characters and a lot of things in here. And they present these characters to where you're not sure how they're supposed to feel until the end. And then everybody falls into the slot where you're supposed to feel the way you're supposed to about these characters. But up until that last 15 minutes, you are on the fence on how you're supposed to feel about pretty much everyone in this movie.
And I think that ending lands really well, where it's not too convenient. Like the characters get like dispatched to like their destinies of the karma of who they are in a good way. Also, I will say, man, this movie is a condemnation of the Venice Police Department. They do not, like, they suck. They're like, she's like, please stay at the house. They're like, well, and like, that was the only thing where it's like, they're like, I basically felt like the cop was going to turn around and be like, look, the big Michael Douglas climax is coming up. We have to leave so you can have the action scene. So we're just going to leave right now. But I will say, though, that of Joel Schumacher's filmography, this is probably one of his better directorial efforts. I would say Joel Schumacher, and this is just like my opinion, this is not fact, but a movie like Lost Boys seems more inherently in tune with what Joel Schumacher is like attracted to as a filmmaker. Like that just seems more his wheelhouse. Whereas this film to me feels like Joel Schumacher trying and for the most part succeeding on doing a more kind of like straightforward drama with his style. But this is definitely one of like, if you were ranking his filmography, this would be near the top for sure.
This would be in my top 2 or 3 of his, for sure. Yeah.
Easily,
it's really for him. It's really sharply directed. You're right. It is completely a different type of approach, especially considering you had him doing Flatliners, and then I forgot he directed Dying Young before this. But Flatliners is great. That's one of my all-time. I love that movie.
Flatliners. I will never watch the remake. I don't know.
No, I watched it once. I watched it once, and I'm like, I just want to watch the original because this remake totally it's lost the entire point of the movie. And Flatliners was wonderful, but that is more his wheelhouse. This more kind of weird, surreal stuff. So
he has such great range as a director. It's really sad over the last 15 years or whatever. He really, I don't know. You know what? He did one of the best courtroom dramas, A Time to Kill. So amazing.
Quality,
I watched that about 3 years ago, revisit for the first time in, I don't know, like 25 years. It is almost like a forgotten film, but it is really great. So
we covered Time to Kill on the spoiler room. If you pardon my plug, don't mean to plug, but we covered A Time to Kill, and it was Sorry. Pardon me. My shill was showing there. My shill was showing. I'm sorry. But no, I mean, we covered it too. And you're right. That's a film too. I forgot it was Schumacher till we watched it. And that's, I think, a film that doesn't get talked about enough, especially with that cast that they had in it too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about Schumacher. While I will put his 2 Batman films really in my not favorite, I will not watch those films if I can all help it category. But his other work, he always managed to get talent. Talent wanted to work with him. You look at the cast he gets for his films. It's crazy who he got for his film. Like this movie alone, you know, even the side characters and the supporting characters, he got talent. He always seemed to manage to attract talent to work with him, you know. And I think that helped with his directing, because when you get talent like that, you know, in A Time to Kill, Matthew McConaughey, but Sandra Bullock, Samuel Jackson, I mean, you're just like, you're sitting there going, you know, and in here we've got Duvall and Douglas just chewing every scene they can. And yeah, Schumacher, given the material, you know, you're right, he's a diverse director, and he shows he can handle it. Because as much as I dislike Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, which I discovered I hate Forever now more than Batman and Robin. Before it was Batman and Robin was my most hated film. But you look at those, it's not his direction, it was the story. It wasn't his work necessarily, even though we attached the director to the film. It was pretty much everything around those 2 movies.
Can you imagine Michael Keaton sticking around for those Batman movies? How weird that would be. In that,
would be so weird. That'd be so weird.
I'll give a shout out to Raquel Tacotin, who was
Pendergast's partner,
sidekick. Yeah, she was really good. I like their lunch scene together. Like that was a good dynamic.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like that dynamic because they kept it platonic.
Yeah.
There was no even like, possibility, him being partners with her is the reason why he has problems with his wife. You know, he's attracted to her. No, you get this just very mutual respect that they're partners. And I like that. And it stays consistent. Thank you very much.
Exactly. It would really break the tone if they made out, or like another thing that would break the tone is if like when Michael Douglas falls off to his death, if he happened to like land on a surfer who was passing by and the guy was like, oh, Jesus. You'd be like, the mood is broken.
So I just want to say one other thing about the ending here, and I didn't finish my whole thought on it, but I just love that, you know, we talked about, I mentioned how the whole scene where he realizes that he's the bad guy, and that's a very strong moment of self-awareness, but we may have already mentioned this, but I just love what's happening with the whole duality of Douglas and Duvall in this, because what's, like I said, it's so tragic, but Pendergast doesn't want to kill Defense in this. And he's doing everything he can to save him. And he's talking to him with compassion, and he's giving him every opportunity for him to save himself in this. And there's almost a bond forming between them, because in so many ways they understand each other in this scene. And I just really, and this is what makes it so really just tragic and memorable. Because there's so many things about this, even though I've seen this movie a lot, and there's so many, you remember all the memorable scenes in this, like the convenience store and the whammy burger, all these things. But a lot of these little conversations I forgot. But this is what makes the movie just elevated for me, is that relationship that these 2 characters have, and why I truly love this film. And Pendergast, after he shoots him, he doesn't feel victorious. He's heartbroken about this. And I think that the film twists the knife a little bit even more when back at the house, he's sitting with Defense's daughter. And we haven't really mentioned about this. The whole thing with him, with Duvall and his wife, is that they lost a daughter around that age.
Yeah.
And that is not even mentioned really, but you see them talking. And it gives me goosebumps just realizing that this is a conversation that he's having with this little girl. And you just know what's going on in that character's head. And it's so great how this is all staged. So
it's so poignant. And I just love that he decides to stay a cop. Like, it's just because he feels
Right.
like he's making a difference. I love that he's doing that. I don't hate his wife at home, even though I enjoy the scene where he tells her to shut up.
But we realize
I just
that
like
it's
that dynamic.
she's not some crazy woman. She is dealing with trauma and grief, and we think this whole movie that's, oh my god, he's married to this crazy lady, and how does he deal with this? Oh, and he's so emasculated. No, he's actually being a very loving, compassionate husband, dealing with somebody who is going through a very difficult time. And how would we handle that in that similar situation if we were married to somebody who was going to deal with that trauma, maybe hasn't slept in 20 years because they lost a daughter? You know, all these things all add up, and we don't get we get little pieces of this as we go along in the movie. And the way these layers of the onion are revealed, I think is really genius.
And
it's brilliant. And I feel like such a horrible person for laughing at the line when Robert Duvall is like, she thought I died. And when I came home, she thought I was a ghost and I had to chase her around the house.
Yeah.
I was like,
but he plays that with so seriousness too, though, because Duvall is. But yeah, no, you could. No, I know you want to wrap it up a little bit, but I'll just say with the little pieces, what also about this ending is something that I didn't catch really the first time, but here it really had meaning, because there is a legitimate curse among cops or whatever, where it's their last day and they tend to get injured and or killed on their last day. And that's brought up a number of times here, which is why they're like, oh, Pendergast, you're just going to stay behind the desk for your last day, right? You're not going to go out anywhere, because cops tend to get shot on their last day. If it was a real gun, he would have been shot on his last day by defense.
Yes.
If defense actually had a gun, so it would have came true that he goes on his beat out into the streets the last day and actually has that would have had that happen to him. And I just caught that more this time, that was a bit of a running underlying theme with his character of like, people are giving him crap, but at the same time, they're like, yeah, just stay behind your desk. What the hell are you doing going out and getting the curse? And he would have had that. And that just, bam, it's just like, wow, and he even realizes it when he wipes the water from his face. He's like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The screenplay is really airtight in this movie. All those plants and payoffs all over the place. They're really like solid script there. Yeah.
All right. I think we've summarized this movie. I think we have gotten through a lot of this. So why don't we take a quick break and come back with our just any final thoughts on this and our ratings and verdicts, whether we're going to save or purge this film.
What is this? This man's hurt pretty bad, sir. About the only thing that's holding his guts in, sir, is that pot lid. Yeah. What do you have to say?
This order is very busy. He wants water. He can drink patty water.
Get out of here! Give me that canteen. Any man brave enough to get out of here! Kick your fucking ass!
Including a lot of our people.
Any man brave enough to fight with his guts strapped on can drink from my canteen any day.
Colonel!
I think one of those sailors, Lance Johnson, the surfer. Wait, here, sure.
We have a body count.
What's your name, sailor?
Gunner's mate, third class, L. Johnson, sir.
Gunner's mate, third class. Lance Johnson, the surfer?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's an honor to meet you, Lance. I've admired your nose riding for years. I like your cutback, too. I think you're the best cutback there is.
Hey, thank you, sir.
You can cut out the surcraft, Lance. I'm Bill Kilgore. I'm a goofy foot.
So before we continue, we just want to thank you for tuning into our show. We really appreciate you listening, and we would love to hear your feedback, especially those reviews. Well, maybe we'll read it on the show. If you agree with our opinions or disagree with them, or just want to join the conversation, reach out to us. You can email us at BackToTheFrameRate@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook or Instagram, Threads, or TikTok. We're back on TikTok at BackToTheFrameRate. And if you enjoy the show, help spread the word by sharing the episodes with friends or anyone who loves movies. Leave comments on our socials or even by sending us a voice message. I want to play a voice message on a show someday. You can also visit us at BackToTheFrameRate.com, where you can find all of our episodes across dozens of podcast platforms. Okay. So, gentlemen, let's just any summarizing thoughts on this, and please give me your rating of this film and whether we're going to save or purge this film. Mark, you are our guest.
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot. Okay.
Yes, there you go.
No, I think, I'm more of a fan of it now. While I know it's got some of the stuff in here is a little over the top or very on the nose. I think it's supposed to be. Shout out to the economically viable gentleman. Is a wonderful little scene in here that just I love this little humanistic scene in here of a guy protesting in front of a bank because he wouldn't get a
Vonda
loan.
Curtis Hall, great
Yes.
character actor who I've seen in TV and films there and there.
He says, "Don't forget me." I love that line.
Yeah, he just the way he delivers it too. He gets, the cops come to arrest him. He's like, "Oh, okay, here we go." He doesn't resist, and they're pulling him. And he just says, "Don't forget me." And it's like, suddenly defense kind of snaps out of it for a moment. He goes, "I won't." He's like, "Holy crap," But in general, for what this film's trying to say, even if it's kind of in your face at parts, I enjoy it. I give it a 4 out of 5. I wouldn't give a complete 5 because there are some things in here where you're just like, okay, but overall for what it's doing and what it's trying to do, absolutely. And I think it should be saved because it's this window, especially into the 90s, that covers subjects that, as I mentioned earlier, some of them are still relevant today. So, I think that shows you how it resonates and how there's some universal themes in here that are going on, unfortunately, still today about things. So even though it's on the nose, what they are saying is still relevant. And so, yeah, I think it should be saved.
Great. Okay. Sam, how about you?
I will say that this conversation about the movie has actually elevated my opinion of it slightly. I didn't dislike it. It's my memory of 14 and seeing it was so strong and so positive that my experience was kind of like revisiting a more youthful time at my middle age. And so that kind of played a role. But I would say I was originally 3. I'm going to go up to 3.5 stars, and I think it's good. And I would save it too, for the reason that this is a movie that I would watch again in like another 5 years or like 10 years. It's a movie that I would never forget about seeing. Like that was when I was young, that was such a, like me watching a whole bunch of movies, getting into filmmaking. Like it was such a wonderful, defining early time in my life. And this movie's forever a part of it. So there's an emotional experience that's wrapped up in it for me. But yeah, I would save it 3.5 positive.
I feel like I'm just going to rehash a lot of things I've already mentioned this, but I don't know. I think I've said everything I can say about this. I do really love this movie. I think it's just as fascinating that over 30 years after seeing this, the pressures that we see in this movie have not disappeared. The alienation, the anger, it's the feeling of being invisible, that sense that society is becoming less human and less patient. Those anxieties are still here, is really the bottom line, as they were in 1993. And the film doesn't offer any answers.
No.
It forces us to confront that. And I think that's important. This film does feel a little dated. And Sam, I think it's really, as far as the filmmaking goes, I think you brought up actually something in the very beginning that is true. There is moments where I do feel very manipulated in this. Like it's not realistic that somebody would have such a day. It is just bonkers. But I think it's still capturing, something that is just a cultural artifact. It captures a very specific American anxiety that's still addressing emotions that people are continuing to wrestle with today. I don't know what else I can really say about this. So, for me, this is a highly entertaining movie, and I don't know why I went so long before revisiting this. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5 because just for how much I still love this film. And yes, I do want to save it.
Awesome.
And I know there was a very
saved.
like bungled final thought on it.
I think the only thing is that, it would have been better if instead of Michael Douglas, it had been played by Rob Schneider. But other than that,
it's
a total joke. Yeah.
Talking with you guys, though, I realize, and watching it this time too, I'll build on what Nathan says is, I think defense's point, while he's put in these situations to where, not all of this would happen the same person the same day, but in those situations, he's saying the quiet, as the kids say nowadays, he's saying the quiet parts out loud.
Yes.
This entire film, he's the guy who's saying the quiet parts out loud. Whether or not he's saying them properly or not, that's, we've discussed that, but he's still bringing up these things that normally people may not comment on or just deal with, or but he's saying it out loud.
Well said.
And I think your opinion is spot on, Nathan. I always like to throw in jokes when I can, but I don't mean to undercut your thoughts.
No.
What you said, I totally agree. Yeah.
All right, let's put it in the vault. Okay, so one other piece of business that I want to take care of here. So since this has become a two-host format, we have encountered a little predicament here, Mark, where if Sam and I are split on a movie, we're not really too sure whether it goes in the vault or we purge it. And it's because we have not changed the rules to our format yet. It used to be that it would be majority decision when there were three of us. Two of us would say yes, it'd go in. And it was as simple as that. And I think going forward, we're going to change that. But since there's two movies that we have discussed that are in limbo right now, we need to ask you to adjudicate two movies for us.
Oh, no pressure. Okay.
And one of them has already come up, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and it is the 1979 sci-fi classic Moonraker.
Okay.
Is this and
all right.
And what I want to ask you right here on the spot is, give me your 10-cent review of Moonraker, and would you save Moonraker? Because is it essential viewing? Is this worthy of vault status? And then I'll tell you about the other movie.
James Bond needs camp. He needs some camp in there. I mean, if Godzilla gets camp and gets a Son of Godzilla, we could have James Bond
We have not put Son of Godzilla in the vault. Just so you know.
Okay. If I would say, it's tough to say. I mean, but I would say. Wow. No, Moonraker, yes. And here's why. You need that comparison. Okay, for Moonraker, you need that okay, folks, you think this is an odd James Bond film. Whoa, wait. I've got Moonraker I could show you. And then they watch, and then that totally recategorizes like so many Bond films after you watch Moonraker. It's like watching that and Thunderball. You watch those two, you're just like, yeah, I'm a big fan of camp and quirky films and odd films, and James Bond's Moonraker is just so like, wow, you guys went there. With this character, you went there, showing no one is immune from going to space. But yeah, I would.
Muppets went there, so
I would say there because of the ridiculousness, the cheesiness of it, how different it is from many of the other Bond films. I would say you vault it for a comparison. While it's not a great movie by any means, I would say that it is one of those odd pieces that you kind of need to preserve, if for nothing else, to watch and go, wow, okay. So that's where I am with Moonraker. Is it great Bond? No, but it is just fascinating that's where they went with James Bond and Moonraker. That's where they decided to go with this guy. They could have gone many other places. Nope. Moonraker.
Wow. Okay. Well, Moonraker is now saved in our lives.
This is the best day of my life. To quote some of the bank robbers from Point Break, the fact that Moonraker just got in. Holy shit, I can't believe we're going to the fucking vault. We never go to the fucking vault.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm sorry, but I can't. It's just
are you just assuming that I did not want Moonraker in the vault?
I just given the reaction of the look on your face, like crap. Crap.
It's okay. Okay. Well, here's the more contentious one. Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Oh, I forgot about that.
No. Here's why, and why I say no. I say no because you did. Well, did you vault Avatar? The second one.
We have never. We've only reviewed one of these movies.
Okay, you've only one. Okay. And the reason I would say no is because I was a bit on the fence of the Fire and Ash has some good moments in it, but it is such a rehash of the second film that I don't think it adds enough to where you could keep it. Maybe if you edit like a Cliff Notes version of Fire and Ash, take some of the bits out, whittle it down, maybe vault it, like edit it together. But for me, I can't, only because it was so many familiar beats to number 2 that I don't think there's a lot. And it's hard for me to say because I'm a hardcore Jim Cameron. I love his movies. But when I watched Fire and Ash, I'm going, dude, come on. You got to do a little bit more than what you're giving, because almost 3 hours of that film, maybe an hour of it actually adds some new stuff to it. And the rest of it is all the same. Even the final climactic battle feels just like the climactic battle we had at the
end. I was in denial. I really like Way of Water.
I do, yeah.
And I was like trying to like make myself like Fire and Ash because I really like the franchise. But Fire and Ash, it is repetitive. It repeats the story beats, and that they have the potential to go to the volcano place and make that a whole new world. And if we go there for 15 or like 10 minutes, get one scene, and then it's just repeated beats. And it was really frustrating. And I even like drifted in the theater. I was so into Way of Water. Like I like Way of Water better than the first one. And the third one really like, I don't hate it, but I just have to like come down. I have to like,
with Fire and Ash, I was hoping they would do with the fire people that they did with the water clans in Way of the Water, and they don't.
Exactly.
And they don't. And I think I'm with you in that it's a missed opportunity, because I found that culture fascinating. It is different than the water. They're more aggressive. They've got this, interesting mysticism to them and everything. I wanted to see more of the fire guys, and you ended up making them just this group of bandits rather than another whole group of clans that you're implying are across Pandora, where you've got all these water clans and then you have all these fire clans. I was hoping we would get that, but we get very little of that. And we go back to the same character beats with our guy Sully that we've already. I'm done with Sully. We've had 9 hours of Sully.
How many times can they get captured and escape and get captured and escape? And like, I'm sure like Nathan, you could like play audio of me defending this movie, and it's like I'm a congressman in Congress who's like, you said that before, Senator, and now you change your.
I have nothing to say. All I know is that what's going on right here sounds like was lifted from our conversation 4 months ago. Like all these plot things that Mark is bringing up.
No, exactly. And like, not to be totally cynical, but I think the reason that obviously the third one, big hit, but the reason that the first two are bigger hits by a significant amounts is because they both have flow states that introduce you to new places. So the first one, you get to the forest and you're in this flow state. The second one, you're in the ocean world. and the audience wanted to be taken to the fire world, but instead it was like truncated repeat beats. We go here, we go there, we go back to Bridgehead, we do this, we do that. And there's interesting character stuff, but it's the flow state is not there. And that translates to literally like $700 million less in box office. Now that sounds so cynical, but like people want the dreamlike, let's go to another world. And that movie didn't do it as strong as the other two.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I would have to say,
let's say before like everybody tunes out of this,
no.
I think we can move on from.
Oh yeah, no, we're fine.
You're going to say what you said. Okay. The one thing you were going to say. What was it, Mark? I'm just curious.
Oh, I was just going to say, unfortunately, I wouldn't agree to vault it just because we've got Way of Water already, and especially if he comes out with a fourth one. If that one's structured anything like second part 2, you don't need to see part 2. I mean part 3, because part 4 will probably rehash a lot of part 3. So you know what I mean? Right. But there you go. Sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna hit the button now.
Okay. I disappointed Nathan on both choices. I'm sorry.
No. I'm okay with this. Okay. All right. Let's we're going to move on to our recommendation shelf.
Excuse me, can you help me? I'm at an absolute loss. I've been looking for over an hour and I'm losing my mind. What I'm in the mood for is sort of a Katharine Hepburn-y, Cary Grant-y kind of thing. Nothing heavy. I couldn't take heavy. No, something zany. I'm looking for something zany. Or something modern would be fine too, like a Goldie Hawn, Chevy Chasey kind of thing. Funny. I want to laugh. I have to laugh tonight, really. Oh, do you have anything with that comedian? He's on that show. It's on the radio. The guy, he says, hey, forgive me. I get such a kick out of the way he says that. He's so goddamn adorable. That would be perfect. Didn't he make a movie? Ordinary Peepholes.
All right, it is time for our recommendation shelf. This week, our subject is... I lost my agenda. It is people at boiling points, tying into our discussion of falling down, because I couldn't think of anything better. Such a stretch. But yeah, it'll be fun. Let's see what everyone here has bring to the table. Who would like to begin with a movie, maybe pairing well with falling down? Or
Sam can go first.
Sam.
So I just realized that I completely forgot about this section, and that is my fault. So I'm going to have to go with a very unexpected answer, and I'm going to do the Muppets Take Manhattan, because Miss Piggy drives Kermit absolutely nuts because she's spying on him and he's trying to get the gang back together. And he's trying to get the show together for New York, and he's like trying to make it all good. And she just, sends him over the falls to the point where he actually gets hit on the head and suffers amnesia. So she drives him to the brink. But luckily they all come back together and they perform Manhattan Melodies, and it becomes a big hit, and they end up getting married at the end of the film. So I'd have to go with that. But as a second one, I would also go with Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems, because he's absolutely pushed to the brink and he's off his rocker, and he's addicted to gambling. So I guess that would be the more serious one. Yeah,
I want to stick with Muppets Take Manhattan.
Stick with Muppets Take Manhattan. Sounds
yes.
good. Miss Piggy pushed him too far.
I feel like both are dealing with some sort of like identity collapse, or performance versus reality. I don't know. There's something in there. They're both fables, maybe.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Commentaries on society.
Yes. Humanity, the human condition. Are the humans there are some. Good pick, Sam. All right.
The sound effect that you really need to have ready is that like a foghorn boat, like.
Wait. Hold on. I just. Does that work? Here we go. Is that working?
I hear crickets.
That I've got. Hold on. Where is it? No.
That works well.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Wow.
Mark, do you want me to go or do you want to go next?
You could go.
Okay. So my pick for recommendation shelf, I'm going with a movie called God Bless America. Have either of you seen this?
I have.
No, I have not.
I
Okay.
have.
I haven't seen this in a long time, but it never really kind of left my brain when I saw it. And this is a 2011 dark satire, I'd say, directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. And this film follows a very deeply unhappy middle-aged man who he teams up with this teenager, and they embark on this violent crusade against people and against cultural behavior they, I guess, deem that make America unbearable is the best way I would put it. And I say for me, this feels like a spiritual cousin to Falling Down in some ways. And it's tapping a lot into the same ideas about alienation and frustration and people who just feel completely disconnected from the world around them. But where I think Falling Down is about like urban pressure and this person's personal collapse, God Bless America takes that same anger and pushes it almost into an Idiocracy territory. You know, the 2006 Mike Judge film Idiocracy. It's like put in that world. And this movie is basically screaming about like media culture and reality television and narcissism, and the whole world's lost its mind in this one. So, Sam, if you think this guy's having a bad day, like it's just absolutely everything's bonkers in this movie. But I will say though, fair warning, this movie can be triggering, and pun intended.
Can be? It will be. There's no can. It will be triggering for some people.
Okay, yes, it will be. And it's very provocative. It's very uncomfortable. But like Falling Down, I think it's fascinating that it's definitely confronting a lot of, how dangerous and toxic, that mindset can be. And right now it's streaming on Hoopla and Tubi. So maybe check it out if you're of a sound mind and want something that's different. But yeah, it's on VOD, of course, as well. But it's interesting. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it for everybody, but it is. No. It's something. If you like Falling Down, it is taking it. It's taking off your white business suit and putting on that black outfit is what this movie is.
Yes, exactly. It is.
I've heard about it. I actually would like to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really well directed too. Bobcat actually does very well with it. So
nice.
Have you ever interviewed him or?
No, I never got a chance to talk to him. I would love to though, because he seems to be a fascinating individual. So for sure.
All right.
Okay, I guess we're down to my pick, which is maybe a little bit more obvious, but I have it on VHS, so I have to. Death Wish.
Yeah.
Nice.
The Death Wish, the mild-mannered architect turned vigilante here. From 1974. This is the one that was the first one was done by Paramount. Dino De Laurentiis. This is done by Paramount, but Canon picked these up and they did 3 other sequels. Now I don't have Death Wish 2 on VHS, but I've got Death Wish 3.
It's probably the closest to Falling Down, like as a right? Yeah.
And Death Wish 4. Well, Death Wish 3's got a rocket as well, because he at one point shoots a rocket.
Yes.
But the Death Wish series, especially Death Wish 1, is a gritty 74 film. The common guy pushed to the limit because guys break into the house and do a horrible thing to his wife, and he's tired with the society of underground winning basically, or nobody doing anything about it, and he feels like a guy pushed to his edge, and he goes around. But then you start to question, okay, does that guy actually deserve to be shot? Are you baiting these people now? So there's a little bit of that with his character too, to where you're kind of like, on one hand, you're cheering him because yes, he is going after the guys who did a horrible thing to his wife. At the same time, some of the other folks along the way, you're like, dude, are you, now the people he's dispatching, most of them are truly bad people. But at the same time, it's just, it's interesting. And, Charles Bronson in it is just, he's wonderful in this, because he's dispatching folks in like a suit and tie, and but not like hitman suit and tie. He's like business casual suit and tie guy, but Death Wish, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it resonates, and the sequels were ridiculous. They're so ridiculous, but wonderfully canon ridiculous. But yeah, that's my pick. I'd say Death Wish.
Fantastic. I haven't seen the Death Wish movies in so long. So
I have not seen them before ever. I got to check them out, to be honest.
Oh no,
yeah. Watch them,
yeah. The first one is played far more serious, and the other three by canon, Golan Globulus, are just wild rides. But they're definitely fascinating films to watch.
Interesting.
All right. Well, great picks. And is Death Wish is it streaming anywhere? Do you know? Or is
I'm not sure offhand. I've got like physical media here, so I don't usually look for streaming if I got it on physical media. But actually, this VHS is in really good shape. I got it at a rummage sale. But I'm not sure. I think Amazon may have it. You'd have to.
You'll find out on VOD somewhere, I'm sure.
It's probably on VOD on Amazon, because Amazon MGM bought the Canon catalog, most of it, when they went under, and then Amazon bought MGM. Yep. So a lot of those films ended up in Amazon's catalog. Not all of them, but a lot of them on streaming. I don't know if it's still up there, but it was up there a while ago.
Okay. I'm just taking a peek here. I do see that it's looks like it's just it's on Canopy for free, and you can just rent it on VOD. Death Wish right now. So okay, well, fantastic. Thank you both. And I think that about wraps things up for tonight. And we are going to continue with our final installment of our Robert Duvall retrospective with our fourth film, and several weeks from now, but we'll get to it with The Apostle from 1997, which was directed by Robert Duvall. So that will
interesting choice for Robert Duvall films.
He was nominated, I believe. That had several nominations, I believe.
Yeah.
So I saw that shortly after it came out, but I have not revisited it since. So I remember almost nothing about it. But yeah. So all right. So, Mark, thank you again for gracing us with your presence on our podcast tonight. And one more time, can you just give us a plug where people can find you, your show, and...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Specialmarkproductions.com for your links for most of the stuff that I do. There's links goes out from there. Otherwise, if you're on YouTube and you search for Special Mark Productions, it should bring up my channel fairly quickly in the search results. And I do various versions of the name, however long I can make them, on like Instagram and TikTok as Special Mark Productions. And but if you go to the website, specialmarkproductions.com, the links are all there for all the other venues and outlets where material that I create is at. So.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to check out some of the video game.
I'm
curious. Yeah.
For the last 3 months, I've been playing, 4 months now, I've been playing Elden Ring. So it's been the Elden Ring playthrough. And it's my first Dark Souls type game. And if anybody out there who's a gamer who knows what a Souls type game is, a lot of people have thrown their controllers and put their fists through monitors with Souls games because they have a reputation of being inordinately hard. And I normally don't play them, but this game's gorgeous. And I decided to play it. Before that, I did whip out the old PS2 and I played Call of Duty Finest Hour, which was a hard game, but it was still World War II one. So
Here's hoping for the Ocarina of Time remastered Switch 2. Please.
If they do a remaster, I may have to do a playthrough video. I might be done with Elden Ring by then. So I don't know. It's a long game.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. That is our show for this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Special thanks to Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the Fallout Shelter. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. You'll always find our episodes at BackToTheFrameRate.com. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.
Well,
here's to us.